Oh boy. There it is. Alright. Whew. Let me get it up on YouTube so I can look at the chat. Yeah, alright. Man, here we are. Alright, let me just bring it around. Alright. Should be good. Should be good. For at least that part of things. I'm nervous as hell. Well, hello. I'm not gonna start stuff yet. Yes, I know my keyboard is loud, but whatever, I like it. I know it has been a while for Blur the Signal, and it is still going on. Can you believe it? Wow. Before I go into posting it and everything, because I'm going to be posting it onto AO3 Live in chat, which means you will hear more keyboard ASMR as I type in new tags and everything. I kind of wanted to explain a bit of the process behind this, because as you can tell, it has been a very hot minute since this thing is updated. Like, since November, almost exactly 2 months. It uploaded for the first time November 14th. So yeah, it's been a while. So basically, I was really busy for a long time, but aren't we all? I had exams and everything coming up, which they weren't like midterm exams, they were final exams. And I was having a really hard time with this because as I was finishing plotting out the entirety of Blur the Signal, I had some huge changes to character motivations a bit of the way through. So that made things really hard to work with the plot points I already had pointed out. I also apologize if you hear my dogs in the background. Yeah. So, and also generally writing is hard. This chapter went through a lot of revision. I proofread it as best as I could, but I don't know how well that worked out because, not kidding, it is almost 11,000 words. We are reading 30 pages here today, people. I have water. I might have to leave sometime in the middle to get more because, good God, my voice is going to be broken by the end of this. Oh, I'm really nervous. There's a lot that goes on. Like I said, it was revisioned a lot. Originally, it was like 15,000 words. But then people said they wanted less action, more character interaction, which, thank goodness. I originally had a lot of scenes that took inspiration from the concept art, but I realized they were really just kind of fillery and weren't really adding anything to the story, so I got rid of those. I also, like it says in the description, I apologize if I'm not the best at reading aloud. I don't do it often. I've been trying to do it more often. The past few days to get ready for this, I was reading Wings of Fire book to my dad so that I could practice reading aloud and everything. I'm still kind of shit at it, but I am trying. I promise I am trying. Oh, hello, hello, hello. Yeah, 30 pages. Yeah, there's a lot here. This also took a while because the wilderness, not gonna lie, fucking boring. Like, I know it's iconic, and funnily enough, on the, survey page for the Little Nightmares Awards, the wilderness so far is leading for everyone's favorite level in any of the Little Nightmares games, which blows my mind. But whatever. Sure, you guys. Sure, let's say it's the best level. But I promise that the school level probably, hopefully, won't take as long to upload because I have a lot planned for that chapter and I'm very excited. And if you've read the bonus chapter of Lure of the Maw, you'll probably know that something pretty big goes down there, but also you can just infer it from the base game. Yeah, alright. Sorry, my dad texted me. Let me turn my ringer off. Yoink. Let's see. The wilderness is gross. That makes it the best. The wilderness is so boring, though. I'm also going to try to have my playlist not fuck us up this time. The last stream that we had for reading the prologue, it was kind of terrible, so I'm going to try to do better at that. As you can see, I just have the main theme looping right now, as I'm explaining everything and sort of setting a precursor to posting and everything, because that's where we're at, but, I have it in order. Like, I don't have it on shuffle, so next will be Teeths and Leaves and Togetherness. I'm really nervous, like I said. I'm super nervous to do this, but, I'm gonna go ahead and, update it, and I will send the link to the chapter once it's uploaded, in the chat, so that, if you want to, you can read along. And, yeah. Oh, I didn't think of a chapter summary. Oopsie daisy. I'm usually really good at thinking of chapter summaries beforehand, but, ooh, I didn't. Don't worry, I got this. I got this. Big brain, big brain. I'm sorry, it's gonna be a lot of keyboard ASMR for the next, like, 5 minutes as I'm updating all this, so, I just like keeping it short and sweet, simple, nothing needed. Yeah, oh boy, okay. I hope you guys like the sound of keyboards, because that's gonna be it for a while. Can you send me the link in Discord? Yeah, I can send it in Discord. Oh, I'm so nervous to read this. I should probably take off my sweater so that I'm not sweating the entire time. Okay, beloved copy paste, swink. Oh, I probably should have proofread the end. Whatever, I don't care. I mean, I do, but ugh. Okay, post. Now I gotta update the tags. Edit tags. Okay. Finally, I can put that mono 6 tag in there. Hooah! Oh, I forgot to put something in the notes. I'll do that in just a second. I should also put that in the preface before I start reading and everything. No, I already have that tag. Oh boy, here comes the fun part where I have to skim through my fic to figure out which tags I need to put at this, damn it. I mean, a lot of it is really general. The problem with tagging a fic is that everything is so used in it. Like, I used up the tags that are pretty generally in every chapter in the first chapter, so whoopsie daisy. Do I have the gore? Yeah, maybe I should add gore, because that'll be the... This chapter isn't that bad. I told you guys that Lure of the Signal does not have as bad gore as Lure of the Maw did, and that stands pretty true so far. Yeah, we can put this. This happens like 3 times in the actual game, so... Rescue mission... Is there really not a strangers to friends tag? That's dumb. You have strangers to lovers, but whatever. We're not there yet. I don't want to put like mystery or anything, because that sounds really pretentious. That works. Yeah, I can't really put much else. Maybe I'll just update it after this stream and then yeah, okay. And real quick, like I said, I forgot to put something in the Okay. Sorry that took me a second. Whew! I can't talk and type at the same time. It's impossible for me. Let's see. That should be it. Yeah, okay. So, let me put in here per the request. Okay. So, let me talk about the preface now. I can finally switch over to Teeth and Leaves. So, before we start, I don't think I said this in the first, when I did the first reading, but the relationship that the Thin Man, because it's no surprise, I'm not trying to hide it at all, the Thin Man who is in this fic did not have a romantic relationship with the Six that he was friends with as a kid, which means he has no romantic feelings towards any Six, whether it be from the past or the present or the future. He was just friends, and it was just platonic. I'm saying that because people might take it weirdly, and I don't want them to for very obvious reasons. So, yeah, don't think that there's anything going on between them, because that's fucking weird. Anyways, I'm gonna go get the link now, and I will start reading as best as I can. Oh, I'm nervous. I hate reading aloud. It's the most terrifying thing in the world. Swink. Yeah, I've said that. Okay, good. Just gonna say it one more time, 'cause you know, people. Alright, I do have that on loop. We're gonna be listening to Teeth and Leaves a lot here, fellas, so please get used to it. Oh, I threw the wrong thing. Whatever. Okay, let me drink some water. When you guys are ready, I'll start. What am I saying? You guys have been ready. You guys have just been waiting for me to post the shit. Okay. I shouldn't have started this chapter off with dialogue. That was so dumb of me. Teeth and Leaves, beloved. Alright. I might as well just go ahead. Time to drink the last of my fancy sodas and pretend we're in a mahogany gothic library. Yeah. Let me just drink more. I'm nervous. Okay. Alright, we'll just go ahead and get into it. I'm sorry, Crow. Oh, I don't remember any of the voices. We're just gonna go ahead and do this. So how do I think my own thoughts? Mono decided to at least figure a few things out while he was going after Mystery Kid. There wasn't much to look at on the way there, just trees and fluttering leaves, so it wouldn't be too hard to multitask his physical actions with his mental ones. It's just something you get used to doing after much practice. Okay, but how do I start practice? When I first started, I addressed my thoughts to myself. I'd start my thoughts like that. So, if I start my thoughts with to Mono, then you won't hear them? To Mono, the voice echoed. Huh? Oh, right, my name is Mono. Mono. He spoke in the same tone as when the television had lured him into its static, into that hallway where he couldn't breathe. It made Mono shudder uncomfortably. He didn't want to talk much more after that. Mono passed by a gooey mass and small grate easily, crawling through the tight space without much trouble. When he came across a hanging mass of flesh, arms and legs sticking out, he instinctively scrunched up his nose. The smell was disgusting. As he climbed up the little ledges and bounced across the mossy log, Mono couldn't help but think, with every thought starting with to Mono, just as he was taught, about the voice. Why was he being filtered? Why was he in his head? Mono wanted to ask, but he could already imagine that blaring sound in his ears again. Instead, he asked a different question, one he was sure he could get the answer to. How did you learn to think your own thoughts? What? I mean, did something happen that meant you needed to learn to do that? Mono gave a little hup as he jumped over the obvious trip in the middle of his path. The voice was silent. Mono wondered if he didn't want to answer or if it was just because he was trying to think of a way to word it so he wouldn't be restricted. Then he spoke. Things are watching me. They can hear me if I'm not careful. Mono's face furrowed with confusion. Can they hear this? Probably. Mono's thoughts came in a strained voice as he pushed a box towards a rise that was too high for him to jump onto. If they're dangerous enough to need you to be careful around them, why do you think they're letting us talk? You're very perceptive. Mono smiled to himself and stood on top of the box with a proud tilt of his chin. I try to be. After pushing through a bundle of roots, Mono heard a loud creak. He looked behind himself to see an enormous log starting to lean towards him. He didn't need to get crushed under it to know it was heavy enough to kill him, so he started running. He could feel the ground rumbling under his feet as he ran ahead of it, not wasting his energy to look back. He'd stumble briefly when the wood crashed especially hard against the forest floor. He pushed himself to run harder until there was the loudest thud and the sound of it rolling suddenly stopped. Mono was able to look back and see that it had been stopped by two trunks on both ends. Mono stopped to catch his breath. He wasn't too physically worn out. It was just the taxing experience of going from on guard and straight to... Man, I fucking suck at this. It was just the taxing experience of going from on guard straight to survival/fight or flight mode. It was like mental whiplash. He was thankful for the easier task that was ahead of him, just a simple swing from a noose and timing his jump over a broken pulley in its box. When his feet landed on the other side, he smugly dusted off his pant legs and continued. You're desensitized. I'm what? Desensitized. You don't think about how horrible some things are. Oh, like what? That noose you used to swing with. Huh, I guess not. Other kids may have found that to be disturbing, both the noose and your lack of thought towards it. So? Mono carefully hopped down a series of boxes and cliff tops to get to the bottom of the ravine he was now faced with. It'll be harder to make friends with that thinking. Mono felt that uncomfortable shudder down his back again. How did you know I wanted to make friends? You're alone. I assume any lonely kid wants. He suddenly stopped talking. Mono slowed his pace in response to the unexpected silence from the voice. The seconds ticked by before he spoke again. Go to the little space next to the collapsed bridge. Mono looked around, and surely enough, there was a little cavern next to the broken planks of the bridge. He carefully stepped into the dark, following the small traces of light he could see at the end of the tunnel he traversed through. He came into a small space with a shovel sticking out of a mound. Maybe a shallow grave, he noted as he saw the decaying feet poking from the dirt. But next to this scene was something. It looked like a kid, but it also very clearly wasn't. It wasn't opaque, nor was it transparent. It was a black glitching form that just stood in place. Mono approached it carefully, moving his hand towards it. The moment it touched his hand, there was a gross buzzing feeling that passed through his body. It didn't hurt, it was just odd, like stepping from a warm room into a cold one, accompanied with the sensation of being pinched everywhere. Mono helped himself through the prickling with a small burr. Why'd you lead me here? Because I wanted to see if I could use this. Mono was shocked to hear the voice's voice no longer inside his head, but coming from in front of him, in that static form. The thing was no longer still, save for its eerie twitching, but moved in an uncanny fashion. It walked around, swung its arms, and looked around. It was a little unnerving to describe it like that since it had no visible face, but... So this is the real you? Mono blinked in a weird, odd kind of way. No, the voice rumbled, but this'll do for now. He turned to Mono, who felt extremely unsettled as its faceless face somehow stared at him. We can continue on. Mono nodded and backtracked his way until he was at the collapsed bridge again. Maybe I'll call you Glitch. You look like one and you don't make sense, just like a glitch. He felt a twinge of self-pride. He felt pretty clever for thinking of that one. Call me whatever you want. It doesn't matter to me. As he climbed up the boards, he looked down to see if Glitch was following. When he didn't see the black mass, he was confused. Where did he go? Was he just slow? Did you get lost? Mono called. No, I'm up here. He turned to look up towards where the call had come from and saw Glitch at the top of the cliff, waiting for him. How'd you do that? He made it to the top of the cliff as he asked his question. I can teleport short distances. As if to prove it, he fizzled in and out of existence and appeared in new places. On a tree branch in the grass a few steps away, on the other side of this bridge, back next to Mono. How far can you teleport? The duo looked ahead of them. Mono noted the dip in the path, most likely meaning a bit more climbing and a dangerous trick in the way, but further than that was a continuation of the path's current level. The glitch fizzled again and appeared on the very far side of that part, right before it dipped again into another area. He waved to the dark figure, which slowly waved back before returning to Mono. About that far. That's great! Come on, let's keep going. Mono resumed his journey with a happy skip in his step. That thing could teleport. This would make scouting for danger so much easier, as long as it was in range, that is. Mono! Moments after that shout, Mono saw a foggy black take up his entire vision and a painful prickling cover his skin. There was that hot to cold feeling again with a semi-painful sensation. He gripped his middle and stopped in his tracks, waiting for the waves of hurt to finish washing over him. He caught his breath and looked around. There was no glitch in sight. What happened? Where'd you go? You were about to step into a trap. I had to stop you. Mono looked down at his feet and saw a net of rope mere inches away from him. He took a few cautious steps away from it. Oh, I'm sorry. Just be more careful. I guess I can't touch you when you're a glitch. Otherwise you'll just poof. The glitch didn't seem very amused by Mono. He quietly apologized again. They were both silent as Mono threw a shoe into the trap and clambered up the log that had been tied to it. Mono decided to pay a bit more attention to his surroundings, no matter how excited he was about anything. Continuing on, he found himself near even more traps. Bear traps littered the ground with rotting meat in their jaws. Mono could easily imagine a hungry animal wandering wandering to the free food before the teeth crushed its head, leaving its corpse to decay out in the open. With that thought in mind, it wasn't hard to avoid the glistening metal, but he found that there was one right in the middle of his path. He huffed and looked around for a solution. That wasn't very difficult. Only a few steps away from him, he saw a stick caught in the jaws of a different bear trap. He pried it out of its place and dragged the heavy wood to the next trap. Before he swung it down, though, he had a thought. Do sticks work on bear traps? Yes. His answer was punctuated with a light chuckle. The noise didn't sound right, somewhat uncanny and unnerving, but it was also very clearly genuine. Mono shrugged. He chalked it up to being the fault of whatever was restricting Glitch's communication. He swung the stick with a grunt and pedaled back when the trap snapped up the stick, jumping like a fish out of water. The trap was out of his way. Mono could move on. He slid down the hollow log and came tumbling out with a smile on his face. Behind you. Mono's carefree moment was interrupted by his survival senses jump-starting. He lifted his head and looked around. What? What is it? Under the log. There's another glitch. He followed the instructions and ducked under the rotting wood to the passage underneath. It was pitch black until he saw another small space under the dirt. There was a dead animal, head caught in the trap, just as Mono had imagined earlier. He was about to shudder, but he suppressed it, knowing he'd need to save his energy for the next part. He stretched his arm to meet the glitch, which overtook his body with that uncomfortable sensation again. Then it was moving, just like the other one. It waved its limbs and turned its head, as if to make sure everything was in working order. Then it nodded. We can continue. Alright, hold on, I need water. I'm dying here. Okay. Mono crawled back outside again, grabbing the stick leaning against the rock pile to his left. He could see the glittering teeth of metal hidden in the leaves. Smack! Multiple traps snapped up upon the stick hitting the first. The loud noise made Mono anxious, worried that the volume would alert something in the woods, and it would slink out of the darkness to take him back home. To Mono. Not home. It was never home. He was on a small rocky island between seas of bear traps, pine cones scattered everywhere. Their seeds poked his palms as he grabbed one and threw it into the thick layer of leaves before him. Again, multiple traps reacted and snarled to crunch the pine cone in their maws. Mono's eyes scanned the clearing to find any more giveaways of the lurking metal. Someone doesn't like you, the glitch quipped. Mono chuckled half-heartedly, distracted with defusing the traps. Pine cone after pine cone went out into the leaves until every trap was snapped. He could traverse the area in front of him with an eased mind. He skipped to the rock, balanced on the dead trunk, and hopped onto the makeshift ladder. He flinched when the bottom step fell and fed another trap that he hadn't even known was there. Mono was infinitely grateful when he made it to the next platform, clear of any traps. Mono decided to make conversation to relax his nerves. You said something is watching you? Yes. Well, if they're sort of controlling what you can say to me, why'd they let you say that? You already asked that. You never answered, Mono pointed out. Glitch hummed, but did not seem to find an answer. So Mono offered one of his own. What if you just answered with really general stuff, not super specific? Maybe that could work. We could try, Glitch said with a nod, steering Mono away from a suspicious dip in the earth. Let's try this one again. What's your name? But they were met with the blaring garbling again. Mono groaned and shook his head. Okay, not that one, he sighed. What about, where are you? Remember, be not so specific. Mono expected that terrible sound again, but found it coming through just fine. The Pale City. Mono paused in surprise, nearly tripping over himself and getting a face full of grass. The Pale City? Yes, the glitch confirmed, looking back at the stumbled boy. That answer came through? Yeah, He contemplated. What would he do once he found his mystery kid? Would they even want to stick with him? Did they feel the same thing he had when they met? What would he do if they didn't want to be with him? I could come find you, if this whole find mystery kid thing doesn't go so well, he offered. Glitch's twitchy form stopped at those words, like he was surprised, just as Mono had been upon learning his location. You mean that, don't you? Yeah, why wouldn't I? Should I not come over? I don't think I'd mind a visitor, Glitch answered after a while. Mono smiled. At least if Mystery Kid didn't go well, he'd have Glitch to come rescue. Something came into view through the thin mist and the hazy air. A small house in the woods that radiated the same warm light he had seen from the distance. He had made it to the house where Mystery Kid would be. Mono took a deep breath before marching up the small hill up to the cabin. What makes you so sure that your Mystery Kid will be here? This is the only place for miles. Where else would they be? They could be dead, in the ground. Mono didn't like that thought. They weren't dead, right? There was no way they were dead before he could even know them. He shook his head. They're alive. I saw them get taken away. If that big monster wanted them dead, then it would have just shot them. The two trekked up the small rise until they came across the cabin finally. Mono sprinted full speed ahead towards the porch. There was a lot of junk thrown about, like cans and spare planks of wood, so Mono had to weave around the trash until he got to the house steps, where the Glitch was waiting for him. He treaded lightly once he got to the porch. It creaked under his steps a little too loudly for his liking. He didn't know if the monster was still there or not, so he wanted to proceed with caution. "Do you think you could check if anything is in there?" Mono whispered, keeping completely still. The Glitch nodded and faded away within seconds. "We can still talk like this," he reminded Mono, echoing in his head. Mono just nodded to himself, keeping that little detail stored in his head. It'd come in handy in situations where talking could mean life or death. Not very long after he disappeared, the Glitch came back to Mono, standing on top of the animal cage by the window. "It's safe. Nothing is inside." "Thanks." Mono climbed atop the crate and lifted himself into the house through the window. Alright, and now... for no reason. He scrunched up his nose once the smell of rotting food hit his senses. And not just any rotting food, rotting meat. The worst of the foods to rot. It smelled bad and was a waste of food. Mono coughed and tried to get the scent out of his nose. "Can you smell?" Mono asked the Glitch as he quickly made his way through the kitchen. He would have looked through the fridge for food, but he was desperate to find his Mystery Kid. "Not in this form, no." The dark figure looked up at the table of decaying food. "Lucky," Mono muttered. He pushed the door in front of him until it squeaked open, making way for an old hallway. But the dusty wood floors and the torn wallpaper weren't the first things he noticed. It was the drifting lullaby coming from the next closest door. He perked up, giddiness adding a bit more energy to his step. He followed the staircase down, only subconsciously noting how the Glitch continued to teleport ahead of him and jumped at the last step. He ran to the sound of the tune, coming to a worn-down door. Through its holes he could see them, black hair, comfy sweater, and now they had a music box. He smiled from under his mask. They were alive. "Psst, hey!" He made sure his call was careful. He sensed the Glitch's static form next to him as they both looked through the door. The kid looked up, gasping upon seeing what they could of Mono through the disrepaired door. He couldn't tell if they registered the Glitch, but in all honesty, that didn't matter much to Mono. He wanted to meet Mystery Kid by himself, just the two of them. Dogs, why do you have to bark now? I'm gonna drink water real quick. "Listen, I'm gonna get you out of there, okay?" Mystery nodded slowly, albeit they also looked a bit flighty, a bit scared of Mono. He frowned at their fear. "I'll be back. I just gotta find something for the door." The music box's song resumed, and Mono backtracked to find something to help him. He wiggled the handle of a knife in a box, but that proved to be fruitless when said handle broke off and left the blade in the wood. Mono huffed. "Glitch, do you have any idea where—" As Mono looked around, he noticed that the stranger was nowhere to be found. "Glitch, where'd you go?" Then he heard the static voice back towards where Mystery Kid was. When Mono didn't see him outside of the door, he assumed he was in the room. It was a fair assumption to make, especially when he heard the kid shriek and the music box's song stopped. "Hello, Six," the Glitch greeted in a friendly voice. Though it didn't sound quite right, like it was sweet and sad and wistful all at the same time. The so-called Six didn't seem to be keen on replying. Mono ran back to the door to see them huddled under the table in the back of the room, with the Glitch standing in the room, waving eerily. "Stop it! You're scaring them!" Mono ordered, but he didn't seem to care. He kept standing there in Six's room. Mono sighed with aggravation before moving to the other door near the staircase. Sprinting into the room, he saw an axe stuck in a pile of cages. Mono's legs tensed for a leap before he jumped and grabbed the handle. It creaked out of its wedged place before falling to the floor heavily. Mono took hold of the wooden handle and used all of his strength to drag it back towards the half-broken wood. "Watch out!" Mono warned before he grunted and swung the axe into the wood. It broke easily, but not enough to let him through, so he swung it again. He made more leeway, but definitely still not enough. He put all of his strength into his third swing, which broke the wood enough to make himself an entrance. He put down the axe and carefully stepped over the wood. He scowled when he saw that Glitch was still standing and waving, trying to coax Six out of their hiding spot. They were staying as far away from him as possible, backed up to the wall. "I'm your friend. You know that I am." "I don't think they can understand you," Mono said firmly, then repeated, "You're scaring them." His odd companion had nothing to say about that. He just moved out of Mono's way and stood in the background. Mono was finally able to approach them himself. "Hey," he said in the most gentle voice he could muster. "It's okay, I promise." He waved his hand in a come here gesture, but moved slowly so as not to startle them. It seemed to work, as they cautiously crawled out from under the table and into the pale light. Now that they were this close, Mono could see their eyes. They were big, dark, scared, and they were framed with pretty eyelashes. He smiled, even if it wasn't visible to them. He reached his hand out to them, hoping to encourage them closer. "I'm sorry that he scared you, but trust me, he's not going to hurt you." Mono then waited for the Glitch to come closer until he felt the air buzz behind him. Six shrank away briefly, but Mono used his kind voice again to keep her there. "It's okay, I promise." But then Mono's hand accidentally caught onto the Glitch and he fizzled out. With that, the terrible sensation seized Mono's body, making him gasp in pain and curl into himself. Despite his eyes being squeezed shut, he knew that had definitely freaked Six out. "Sorry," he said in a pained voice. "How was my bed?" But it was too late. Six had already nudged him to the side and was running away. Mono fell back and watched her flee the room and up the stairs. "Great job," the Glitch said sarcastically. "Well, you certainly weren't helping," Mono shot back. "I told you you were scaring them. They can't understand you." "So you'll have to be the translator," he sighed. Mono rolled his eyes as he lifted himself from the ground. He briefly took notice of the scribblings on the wall, tally marks that most likely showed how long they had been there. For a long time, he assumed. Stick people doodles and, oddly, of the tower. He shuddered and shook his head, instead concerning himself with following them to wherever they went. He followed the pattering of their footsteps as they ran. Despite the head start she had gotten, Mono was easily able to catch up. They went up the stairs, back through the hallway, and into another room. Mono halted as he saw the adults at the table, which was covered in plates of disgusting, rotting food. He watched in amazement as Six just sprinted through and climbed up the furniture into the next room. "They're crazy brave." "No, she just knows that those people are dead." He dared to move closer and saw that these people were definitely dead. Faces awkwardly stitched and stuffed, heads attached to their bodies with bars, cotton spilling from their skin. They were most certainly, definitely dead. Mono was able to run past them without much fear of being caught after that realization. But as he was climbing up the furniture, as Six had, a question popped into Mono's head. "She? You said she." "Yes." "How did you know that? How did you know her name?" Mono asked as he hauled himself into the small hole in the wall. Whatever he was saying got cut off by that blaring static, and Mono squeezed his eyes shut as it prickled inside his brain. He wasn't sure if he believed Glitch was being censored, or just wanted a way to avoid answering tricky questions. Okay, I won't ask." He landed on the floor with an oof before getting up again, rubbing his sore knees. In this new room, he saw Six trying to use a latch hanging from the door, a string to open the attic stairs above. He wondered why she didn't just go through the door just a few steps away, but then he noticed the lock. Was the key in the attic? Mono approached, maybe a bit too eagerly. Six looked scared when he got to the edge of the rug she was standing on, and put her hands out in a stay back gesture. Mono obeyed, staying put as soon as he registered her actions. "I'm sorry that I scared you," he said softly. "I didn't mean to." That, along with him heeding her requests, seemed to relax her a bit. She looked up at the latch again, then back to Mono. And then she did something that made Mono smile the most he had smiled in recent memory. She moved her hand in a come here motion. She wanted him to come closer. Again, Mono did as she asked, slowly coming closer. As he did, she crouched and put her hands together. Mono's head tilted curiously. What do you want me to do? Six then raised her intertwined hands up in a push motion. Oh, she wanted to lift him. You've never seen that motion? No, I've always been alone. No one's been around for me to learn. Mono carefully put his hands on her shoulders and stepped into her palms before she heaved him up to the latch. He caught onto it, but it wasn't enough weight. He wiggled his foot. Grab on! She leapt up and her hands grabbed his ankles, adding enough weight to open the attic. The two children fell back on the floor as the ladder came crashing down. He jolted up when he heard clattering in the room next to them. Six seemed to have a harder time getting up than he did, so he helped her get back on her feet and ushered her towards the ladder. Go, go, he whispered urgently. She didn't need to be told twice. She was climbing up as fast as she could. Mono followed her, keeping an eye on the direction where the muffled sounds were coming from. Now it's time to switch songs. Swag. Alright. They arrived in the attic, which was dusty, dark, and disused. The first thing they had to do was push a trunk up against a drawer, which was also too high for either of them. Mono was able to learn something about Six as they pushed. She wasn't as strong as him. She looked tired just from lifting him and going up the ladder. Pushing this thing, even with his help, was already a lot for her. He wasn't too surprised, though. He knew he was a strong kid. While they were in this dark place, Mono figured he could try to learn something about her. I'm Mono, he introduced himself. What's your name? Her name is Six. You don't know that for sure. Despite how he had internally referred to her as Six, he wanted to make sure he was getting things right. Besides, it'd be extremely creepy if he already knew her name. Glitch just gave a harsh chuckle. Was all that she said. The two finally made it to the top of the drawer and sat there for a while, their legs hung over the edge. Your name is, Mono confirmed, albeit a bit incredulously. Six smiled, which made Mono feel proud of himself. He made her smile within minutes of knowing her. That was a good sign. She shook her head to answer him and instead put up 6 fingers. So her name is Six. Glitch laughed again, this time in a very self-satisfied way. Your name is Six, Mono confirmed, this time with more confidence. She nodded. And are you a girl, or a boy, or someone in between? Girl, she signed. Wait, what? How do I know sign language? He looked down at his hands and felt the urge to reply back in sign too. He wondered if he could. Then, I'm a boy. He did, somehow. Six looked surprised. Her head lifted in interest, and she kept glancing between his bag face and his hands. At least, it seemed like it. Her hair covering her face made it hard to tell what her expressions were. Her hands poised to reply to him. You know sign? I guess I do, Mono replied aloud. I'm not sure how. He looked at her next to him, blinking a few times. He couldn't shake this feeling he had, like he had met this girl before, but he knew for a fact he hadn't. He'd remember meeting another kid his age. Mono stared at her more. He tried to figure out the weird familiarity in his chest later. He slid off the drawer and moved on to the next part of the attic. It smelled bad. Mono frowned at the body bags on hooks to his right before seeing the key on the hook nearby. He perked up for a moment, then realized he would never be able to jump high enough to get it, not even with Six's help. He spotted the slot where a crank would usually be. Maybe if he found the crank. He looked towards where the rest of the attic was, blocked off by clutter. Six, come help. He was about to wave her over until he realized she was already going to where he needed her to be, in front of the wooden cabinet, in position to lift him. He smiled. He could tell Six was going to be a very helpful companion. He climbed up onto the top of the cabinet and looked back down at Six. I'll be back, okay? The frown on her face was clear, like a nonverbal don't go. So to assure her, Mono added, I'll be quick. He crouched under the shelves of junk and came into a small room with a woman in it. Mono froze once he noticed her there, but upon recognizing the stuffing spilling from her arm and the stillness of her body, He could deduce that she was dead, like the people at the table downstairs. He easily grabbed the crank in her hand and heaved it to retrieve it from her cold grip. Careful. I know what I'm doing, Mono thought back with humor in his internal voice. His feet paddled back until the arm stitches made a loud tearing noise and her arm came off. He coughed as the heavy arm landed over his stomach and pushed it off of himself, kicking it away. He pried the crank from its stiff fingers before heading back to Six. I like her. The dead woman? No! Mono laughed in his head and smiled in real life. Six. I think she's smart. She is, the glitch said, almost offensively. She's good at taking care of herself. I hope so, Mono worried. I didn't want to leave her alone, but... Suddenly there was a yelp from Six. Mono hurried his pace and rushed over the pile of wooden planks back to the top of the cabinet he had been on to see the danger. Six was next to the drawer they'd climbed over, and something small with a pointy hat, or head, was rushing in Mono's direction. The small creature wiggled under the cabinet and stopped at the base of the plank pile. Mono was tense, ready in case it tried to attack him, but it just seemed to be waiting. He glanced at it, then to Six, who looked thoroughly spooked by the creature. Take this. He threw the crank down to her before turning to address the new thing before him. He slowly approached the little critter until he was able to pick it up. It chattered in its weird language that Mono couldn't understand, but as far as he could tell, it was friendly. He smiled. You scared Six, he playfully scolded. Don't do that again. It just croaked in response. Mono put it back on the floor and it fled into the attic. He smiled before returning to his companion. Six was sitting next to the crank, which was now in its spot. She looked a little nervous. Is she okay? What? What happened? I went to look at the pointy hat thing. She looked scared, but I was only gone for a minute. You went after the gnome? No? Yeah, I think I did. You left her alone. Being alone in this world isn't a good thing. Oh. Mono knew exactly how that felt. He felt bad for leaving her alone, even for a short amount of time. Hey, he said softly, hoping not to scare her. She turned to him, watching as he climbed down from his position above her. I'm sorry that I left you. Six just gave him a little nod before standing and holding the crank. She turned it a bit and one of the body bags lifted. It was close enough to the key hook that Mono knew he could jump from the elevated sack to catch it. He grabbed onto the canvas material, shuddering as whatever was inside squished in his grasp, and waited as Six turned the crank to lift him up. He tensed his legs before jumping for the key. He swung from the little metal key for a hopeful moment, then he lost grip and fell back onto the floor. Damn it! His face furrowed angrily, but then it popped into surprise when the key fell from its hook and dropped onto his head, crinkling his paper bag. Six obviously stifled a laugh at the comedic moment. Mono tried not to laugh too, but instead gave a thumbs up as he latched the key to his coat. The two crept back to the way they came, treading lighter as they approached the ladder. Mono made the universal gesture for shh and poked his head down to the first floor. Nothing was there. He sighed and started down the ladder. It's safe. They made it to the floor and Mono easily unlocked the door, though he needed a little help pushing the heavy door open. It opened back to outside, trees above and leaves littering the floor and top of the nearby outhouse. Fresh boot tracks were in the mud, making Mono hesitant to enter the shed in front of them, but upon seeing the barbed wire lining the fence around them, he knew it was the only way to go. And the outhouse. The absurdity of Glitch's request made Mono react out loud. What? Six jolted with shock as his voice blurted. He saw how it frightened her and he tilted his head apologetically. Sorry. What do you mean? There's another glitch in the outhouse. Mono turned his attention to the little building, where he could hear flies buzzing inside. He felt hesitant. Sure. He moved towards the outhouse, waving for Six to follow him. She looked as uncertain as he felt, but she still hoisted him up to the handle and opened up the door. The smell was more like rotting meat, dissipating and spreading as the door opened. Six stumbled back and away as fast as she could, covering her nose and mouth with her sleeve. Mono held his breath as he swung his hand at the glitch, letting the glitch pass into it and take it over. It hopped quickly out of the small building, moving back towards the shed. The shed was full of empty cages and trunks, all of which were stained with dried blood or had scraps of fur or feathers. Traps of all sorts hung on the wall. Further inside, Mono could hear something. He wasn't sure what it was yet, but he knew it was from the monster. Under the chest in front of them, Mono saw scrape marks. In the back, there was a hole in the wall, right in front of the chest. He approached it and pushed against it. Six quickly got the idea and pushed next to him. I'm just going to put this back on. Are you going to help? Mono asked the glitch, who was just standing behind the two kids. If I get close, I'll disappear again, he answered. Mono sighed. He knew he was right, but it would have been nice to have two extra people to help instead of just one. Six made a concerned sound in response to Mono's dialogue with the glitch. Right, she can't understand him. I didn't mean you. I was talking to the glitch. He nodded his head towards the twitching dark figure behind them. She just hummed an acknowledgement. The chest got stuck on a dip in the floor, leaving the group to just climb up and jump to the gap. Except Glitch, who just teleported to the other side. Be quiet when you get in here. The hunter is here. Mono held his hand at Six to warn her against jumping yet. Is it safe to jump in there? Yes, you'll land on a pile of pelts. Be careful when you jump, okay? Mono whispered to Six. She nodded with a serious expression, from what he could tell. Her hair still made things difficult. Just as the glitch had said, Mono leapt and landed on countless furs and skins. He was tempted to take one for himself, use it as a blanket, but he knew he'd trip on it or lose it while running. The rest of his surroundings were unnerving, dark, smelling foul, and that terrible sound was louder and clearer now. Ripping, tearing, the heavy sound of the hunter's breathing. Mono didn't move, nor did the glitch, who waited at the edge of the fur piles. They both waited for Six to come through. She stumbled inside, getting mixed up in all the furs. Once she stopped rolling over them, she shook her head and oriented herself by looking around. Her eyes seemed to catch on to something particularly unnerving as she paused and stared at a spot behind Mono. What is it? Mono turned to look behind him, and then spotted her fear. A shadow was on the wall, the shadow of the hunter clawing at something. With the furs they stood in and the tearing sound combined with the visual of it ripping something apart, Mono could easily imagine that this shed was where it skinned its unfortunate victims. He shuddered uncomfortably. As Glitch teleported to the other side of the room, Mono and Six were left to crouch and sneak towards him. Mono was somewhat grateful that the hunter was tearing apart that dead animal in its grasp. It made sneaking by much easier. Their footsteps across the creaking wood were buried under the ripping of skin. They finally made it to next to Glitch, who inched away from them so as to not be dissolved again. A loose swing of wood was cut into the wall, leading to outside. Mono faced Six. She looked at him too. He nodded at the small door, and she nodded back. The two pushed against the door, waves of shudders climbing Mono's spine as he realized the resistance behind the door was gore. The wood underfoot was damp with blood. There was a squishing sound outside, and he could smell the entrails. He swallowed back his gagging. After pushing as hard as they both could, they rolled outside, being coated in the smell of death and the redness of blood. Mono looked at Six, who looked horrified at the crimson stain smearing her skin and clothes. Meanwhile, Glitch was in the distance, motioning for them to come with him. Run, Glitch urged. Run? The door swung open, revealing the hunter and his gun, his lantern hanging from the barrel. He cocked his weapon. Mono felt his heart stop before adrenaline pumped through him. Run! He ushered Six forward and further away from the shotgun's muzzle, all the while scrambling to make his own break for it. He instinctively covered his head as a bullet blasted through the wooden fence right next to him. He led the way for the two of them, skidding to a halt and turning sharply when he came across a crate. He didn't have the mental capacity to worry about what the stench inside of it was. Six crashed into him as she followed his lead and hid behind the box. There was a brief moment to catch their breaths before the sound of a shotgun boomed and the box was left in tatters. The two children kept ducking to and from the boxes, only mere milliseconds between taking cover and sprinting to the next box. Ahead of them, Glitch was waiting and pointing to the ground. Mono didn't understand why, until he got close enough to see there was a small overhang for them to hide in. Mono waved for Six to keep going, despite how tired she looked already. Glitch teleported elsewhere as Mono approached. To where, Mono didn't know, but he was happy to find himself landing with a hefty thud down onto the ground right in the small cave. He noticed Six hesitate above, pebbles showering onto him from above. But eventually the boots of the hunter stomping nearby was enough to coax her into hiding. Together, the two crouched in the pocket of earth for a few agonizingly long seconds. The hunter came close enough for Mono to be able to hear the heaving breaths again, even through his paper bag and the dirt above. The monster had paused briefly, looking around with his lantern. The yellow light illuminated the grassy clearing ahead of them. He then rounded away from their spot and continued towards the grass, still searching for the children he had left behind. The two kids gathered enough courage to slowly creep out from under their hiding spot. Mono felt confident enough to move forward, but stopped when he realized that Six wasn't following. He looked behind him and saw her staying near the roots and rocks covering the sides of the dip in the earth. She was visibly shaking and didn't come near him, even when he gave her the motion to come with him. What's wrong with her? What? Glitch materialized next to Mono, though out of arm's reach. He observed the girl, who seemed to be more spooked with the dark form's appearance. Mono, you're very socially inept. Huh? She's scared. Can't you tell? Oh, I thought she'd be used to the hunter by now. It looked like she was in that room for a while, he reasoned out, remembering the doodles and scratched tallies along her room's walls. She's still scared of the thing, Glitch pushed insistently, but I can take care of it. And as quickly as he was there, Glitch was gone. Six seemed a little more relaxed, but both Mono and Six jolted in fear when they heard a gunshot ring only a few steps away. Mono's head turned to see what had happened and saw Glitch's shadowy body teleporting into the light of the hunter's lantern, leading the monster away. Mono smiled, relief washing over him. Thank you. Just keep Six safe. Mono turned his attention to Six, offering his hand. Glitch is helping us. Let's go while we can. Her eyes darted a few times from his bag face to his hand before she just nodded and let her palm press against his. He squeezed her hand tight, determined to keep her hand in his. The grass was tall, the blades brushing by their sides, and was easily crossed within a matter of seconds thanks to Glitch's distraction. Mono guided Six to an abandoned animal den until the both of them stumbled in, the stale smell of fur hitting them as they fell inside. Dirt and small pebbles clung to their palms as they crawled through to the other side, pushing through the rotting roots outside. Mono kept them pushed aside to help Six make it out. Their new surroundings were quiet compared to the gunshots and stomping they had just faced. Mono took a deep breath to appreciate the calm. Glitch, did you make it out all right? I'm fine. He chased me out rather far, though, so it'll be some time before I get back to you two. Mono sighed in relief. Glitch is fine, he told Six. He's just kind of far away. He'll be back soon. When he looked at Six, she wore a bewildered expression. What is Glitch? Mono still didn't quite know how he understood Six's hands, but he wouldn't question it. It was useful knowledge, especially when it came to communicating to someone who apparently only spoke in sign. I don't know. He's something? I really do not know. We met like an hour-ish ago? Her head reared back and her already present frown deepened. Only an hour? Yeah, I can understand him, but I guess you can't? She shook her head. That's all right. I'll tell you what he says. So you plan on holding that up? Otherwise you'll nag at me. To his answer, she nodded, and Mono concerned himself with figuring out where to go next. Ahead of them lay a deep ravine and a broken wooden rope bridge. Mono knew that even with a running start, he'd never make it to the other side, and given what he knew about Six's abilities, he doubted she would make it across either. His attention was drawn elsewhere when she tugged on his sleeve and pointed to a tied peg attached to the bridge stakes. Mono pulled on it, then when he found out it was rather heavy and let go, he heard the thud of the bridge haft below hit the ravine edge. Mono perked up. This is just what we need. He gripped the peg with all his strength and pulled back, digging his heels into the dirt. The bridge half was pulled up. His arm shook as he tried to keep it in place. Do you need help? Six Hands asked. What I need, he strained, is for you to run and jump across. Mono knew she was scared. She glanced over the side of the ravine, then to the rickety planks of wood. You'll be okay. If you can avoid getting shot by the hunter, then you can definitely make a little jump. He chuckled past the struggle to keep hold of the bridge. She only nodded slowly and backed up until she was next to Mono. She shuffled nervously for just a few seconds before she went into a full sprint towards the ledge. Mono noticed the second her feet were on the extra ledge, as holding it up briefly became more difficult. If she falls, she won't. Are you almost here? Almost. Then she was jumping across, and seconds later she was on the other side. Her landing was rough. She rolled across the wood and onto the grass. There wasn't a yelp or cry to imply that she had gotten seriously hurt, though. Mono heard her breathe deeply, as if she had not dared to while she jumped. He let go of the peg and breathed deeply as well. Whew! Is she all right? Yeah, calm down. To Mono. Ask later why he's obsessed with 6. Mono inhaled with the entirety of his chest, then sprinted towards the other side. From where he had been, it looked like he could make it, but it became obvious as he neared the edge that he definitely could not make the jump. It was too late to stop without skidding into the ravine. 6! 6, help! Mono screamed as he was forced to do his best and launch into the air. He flailed for a moment before he felt himself stop midair. His arm was yanked as he caught onto someone. 6 had been quick enough to process his cry for help and come to his rescue. She was hanging onto one of the wooden pegs as her other hand held onto him, half of her body hanging over the ledge with him. He let out another relieved woof as she pulled him up onto the other side. The dirt and grass smelled worse here, which probably had something to do with the rotting cages piled next to the trees, but all Mono cared about was the fact that they had made it. It was seconds later that he noticed Glitch was finally there, watching the two as they very quickly moved away from the ravine. Oh, you're back! Mono popped up and wiped off his dusty panties, trying to seem casual after that near-death experience. 6 followed him in standing up, but was obviously not interested in approaching Glitch. What was that? She caught me? Mono led the way forward, pinching his nose as they passed the pile of cages. 6 cautiously moved forward too. Why? What's so interesting about that? It reminded me of my friend. Your friend? Mono looked at Glitch's twitching form with wide, curious eyes before 6 tugged on his sleeve. What is he saying? 6 asked. Mono explained the conversation to her. Oh, where's his friend? 6 asked. I know what she asked. My friend isn't around anymore. Mono couldn't read the expressionless expression Glitch wore, but he heard in his voice that he was sad. I'm sorry, Mono said with a heartfelt tone. But then 6 tugged hard on Mono's sleeve, putting her index finger to her mouth as she wordlessly hushed him. She pointed into the foggy distance, where a light swung around and a heavy stomp echoed against the mist. Mono immediately crouched and took careful steps. How did the hunter find us already? Perhaps I accidentally led him here while teleporting back to you. Perhaps. Okay, there's a pause there, thank God. Anyways, how's it going? I'm dying here. I'm gonna need to take a shower after this because, good God, I'm sweating a lot. Oh, man, this is tough. Anyways, quick break. How is everyone doing? I apologize for pausing, but I just need a break. Woof. Yay, I'm glad. Thank you. I hope this was worth the 2-month wait. Probably wasn't, but at least the next chapter won't take so long. Whew, okay. Woof, alright. Thank you guys, Alright. Whew, we'll keep going. The journey through the woods as the hunter relentlessly chased them was terrible. Constantly high on adrenaline, screaming and pushing for 6 to run ahead, countless moments of only consisting of their heartbeats pounding in their ears out of the intense fear of being killed. All of it, and there hadn't been a moment for them to talk. By the time they were escaping from the muddy pits of a swamp, damn, I need to go back and fucking proofread this. Mono had realized that he still hardly knew anything about 6, aside from her name, gender, how scared she was, and how she preferred to talk. He didn't know if she'd felt the same way when they'd met, or what she liked to do, or what he could do to be a good friend to her. He hardly knew the first thing about her when he was supposed to be her rescuer and hopefully new friend. It frustrated him to no end, but above all else, it made him sad. They were hiding on a small ledge overlooking a stretch between them and a rickety shed. The hunter was stalking the area, attracted by a small murder of crows that had taken flight upon the little trio, disturbing them. The hunter probably noticed that. Do you think you could distract him more? I don't think so, Glitch mumbled. Mono turned all around him to find him before realizing he was right next to him, almost completely faded. He was no more visible than the wisps of fog. Just run. Do what you can. Mono's face furrowed with worry before he turned to Six, who was visibly shaking. This poor girl was being dragged through hell and back, all within a matter of hours. Maybe a whole day, Mono thought as he noticed the dimming light overhead. She probably would have been happier in that small room, with her music box and wall doodles. No hunter shooting at her, no creepy twitchy black thing, and no kid with a covered face. Just a melody and a scene she'd draw with it. Guilt weighed on Mono heavily. I'm so sorry about all this, he signed. I came to rescue you because I wanted to know you after we saw each other, but now you're in more danger than before. I'm sorry, Six. She stared at his hands as he spoke, though he wasn't sure how exactly to read her expressions, what with all the hair covering her eyes. How was he supposed to know if a frown was an angry or sad frown, or if a smile was a really happy or really sad smile? She probably had the same problem with him, though, but worse. It's okay, she answered. We can talk when we're safe, but not here. Mono smiled, substituting the visual by tracing the upwards curve of it on his bag. Six smiled as well at his little gesture. Mono felt a little less guilty. He returned his attention to the task at hand. The hunter was still wandering, which meant that Glitch was right. They'd have to risk it and run. We'll just have to run for it. Do you want to be in front or behind me? He offered the option since he knew the pros and cons. Six's relaxed mood returned to an anxious one upon his more serious question. Can I just be next to you? Her hands asked her question shakily. Mono frowned sympathetically. Grab onto my coattail, he suggested, holding out the faded fabric to her. She squeezed it in her hand. Follow my lead. Moments later, they were sprinting for their lives, seeking refuge in the shed just a few paces in front of them. Pieces of wood flew above their heads and crashed down around them with every thundering gunshot. They finally made it to safety, with Six slamming the door and lock behind them as Mono stumbled in. But they both yelped as the hunter pounded on the door. Six whimpered, pushing against the door with very little success. Meanwhile, Mono searched for any tools that could possibly help. That part was easy, what with the gun hanging on the wall. He scrambled to his feet and jumped atop the nearby crate, hauling at the gun's post. He fell backwards as he was able to retrieve it for himself. Six left the door to help Mono with readying it. The door was noticeably becoming less and less durable, with portions of its wood rattling with each of the hunter's slams. Mono ignored the dull pain in the back of his head from his fall and came to Six's side. She held the barrel while Mono lifted the trigger part. The hunter's head came crashing through. Mono didn't hesitate to pull the trigger. Bang! Mono's eyes opened to a dull blue-silver light. The room he was in was dull, with no furnishing nor any decoration. Trash was scattered around the floors and corners, but nothing was very appealing. It was neither hot nor cold in his surroundings, just temperate, sorry. Nothing notable about this place. But then there was the very notable detail that he couldn't move. He could breathe and blink, but he couldn't move off of the chair he was sitting on, and he couldn't explore the small place he was trapped in. Hello? He dared to and was able to speak. Somehow he felt the air shift, like something moved near him. Mono? Glitch's voice responded, but it was clear and precise rather than distorted and static. Wherever he was, Glitch's real form was there too. Mono woke up to Six shaking his shoulder, whimpering anxiously. His ears were still ringing and his body was sore from the gun's recoil. He groaned and held his head through the bag. Are you okay? His voice creaked from his tired body. She nodded. What about you? You were knocked out. He threaded his fingers through his hair before removing his hand from under the paper bag. I'm okay, just sore. Then the memory struck Mono, of his dream or vision or whatever it had been. He looked around wildly, despite how it felt like his brain moved in his skull with every turn. Glitch? Glitch? Mono. Did you see all that too? The room? And did you hear me? Mono didn't notice the confused look Six wore as he seemingly talked to himself. I did. You were there for a moment. I felt it. I couldn't move, though. I couldn't either. Maybe next time you sleep, you can. Maybe... Should I rest here? He started taking off his coat to use as a pillow. Both Six and Glitch had very explicit responses to that. Six shook her head very quickly, pointing at the dead, stinking corpse of the hunter right outside the door. No. You both have to keep moving forward. So Mono put his coat back on and climbed up out of the window. Six followed, though more slowly. Together they gazed around the beach in lapping water. Mono knew what was across those waves, the Pale City. He knew it was dangerous there. Televisions around every corner, viewers gurgling and groaning, and the signal tower looming above it all. He turned back to Six, who was drawing in the sand. Hey, listen, he started. She looked up at him, pausing her finger scribbling. I'm heading over, across the water, and it's really dangerous. She needs to come to the Pale City. What? Why? Six was confused again as Mono paused mid-speech and looked away, seemingly talking to himself. She'll be safe there. Will she? Mono asked in a doubting voice. He knew it wasn't safe. If Glitch was there, he'd know too. I know she will be. How? How could you possibly know that? Mono called into a damp, foggy air. Six looked around, searching for the recipient of his outburst. He finally turned to her and said, I'm talking to Glitch. He faded out, I think. She nodded and went back to drawing in the sand. Mono returned to talking to Glitch. Because I've been through it. I know the safe ways to go. If you follow my lead, she'll be safe. Mono glanced behind his shoulder to Six. She was drawing little square-headed, coat-wearing people in the sand, tapping her chin every so often like she didn't know about her drawing subject. Mono yearned for the same thing she did. To know. After such a powerful first meeting, an instant connection, surely he couldn't just leave her. They'd hardly gotten to talk while running away from the hunter. He wanted to find out more about her and what made her so important before they had to part. He sat next to her, watching her figure out what to draw. Among the box heads were flowers and suns. Mono couldn't help but think her behavior to be so sweet, as if she didn't know what was happening out in the world. But of course she did. She'd experienced it firsthand with a hunter, at least. Would she tolerate experiencing more just to know a stranger? There was only one way to find out. Across the water is the Pale City, he resumed his talk. It's dangerous there, but it's where I'm going, to find where Glitch is. She kept her eyes on the sand, except only drawing meaningless scribbles and lines in the grains, contemplatively. Mono began to draw on the sand too, hoping to alleviate some tension. But, above all else, I want to know you. I came here for you. So if you don't want to go, then we'll go somewhere else. Then another option occurred to him, which hurt a little to think about. Or if you don't want to be around me, I get that too. Anything you want is what I want. But I mean that. You don't seem to be in any danger, but she is. She's out there, not wherever you are, which is apparently safe. And I can't talk to her in my head. I can't keep in touch if we're separated, Mono argued stubbornly. Fine. There was nothing else following that. Whatever you decide is all right, he finished. Just let me know what it is. His drawing was a very bad recreation of her image, including her eye-covering hair and comfy sweater. She tapped his shoulder to turn his attention from the ground to her. If you protect me, she started, then I'll come with you. She looked at his doodle before adding, I want to know you too. Mono grinned under his bag. He was sure that it was audible when he said, Yes, of course I'll protect you. She's going to the Pale City? Yep, we're going together. Good. I'll guide you with what I can remember. Six smiled and stood up from the sand, brushing off her knees and heading towards the door on the shore. Mono helped her push it out into the water and they were swept away, the current moving them towards the Pale City. And there's that one. There was only the sound of the water splashing gently, the soft hum of static every so often, and the distant sound of the buildings crumbling. But everything was quiet. Mono would occasionally dip his hand into the water, look at Six, anything, but the two of them never spoke. Glitch? What do I say to her? Are you serious? You spent all that time running and hiding with her and you didn't think of a single question? No? Well... Mono thought hard, trying to dig up any questions that might have come up while they were being hunted. He managed to retrieve one that had come to mind before the hunter knew of their escape. Have you ever seen the Pale City? She flinched at the sudden sound of his voice, but quickly relaxed, processed his question, and answered. No? Why? Oh, well, in your room, I saw the signal tower scratched into the wall. A lot of those were there before I was caught. I just added a few of the tally marks. Motto blinked in surprise. Really? Well, that makes me feel a little better, knowing you weren't actually there for a bazillion days. She chuckled lightly. It was only a week, I think. Mono watched her hands intently, humming curiously as another question formed. Why do you sign? She shrugged. I don't like talking with my voice. Why not? It doesn't feel right, I guess. She whipped back with, how do you know sign? I don't really know, but I'm glad I do. He chuckled. She smiled at his reply. Are you close to the shore yet? I don't really know, but... Then Six flinched at the sound of rumbling buildings, distant splashes of debris falling into the water, the faraway crashes of collapsed structures, everything carried in the misty air. The fog cleared and revealed the Pale City in all of its dying glory. The buildings loomed and leaned, moaning with every sway. Their foundations were dilapidated and in ruin. The clouds above were heavy with oncoming rain. Mono stood against the scene while Six stayed sitting down on the door, not at all eager to approach this new hell. I'm waiting for you on the beach. Come find me. Will do. It's been weird without you. Ha. The laugh was sarcastic. It made Mono frown. I meant that, you know. You're part of this friend group, too. Silence. Then, it's been a while since I've been someone's friend. I've never been someone's friend, ever. So be patient with me learning the ropes, okay? He chuckled internally. Glitch lapsed into silence again. The door landed on the shore with the scrape of wood against sand buried under the sound of the waves rolling around them. Mono stepped onto the beach without hesitance, looking around for where Glitch was on the expanse of sand. Six slowly followed him, grabbing onto his coattail again. He perked up when he saw the dark form come into sight despite its shadowy placement. The two kids hurried over before Mono caught onto the shadow. It twitched into life. Glitch's presence filled the hollow vessel. We're a group again, Glitch hummed thoughtfully. Yeah, we're a group. Mono smiled at his two new friends. He turned to the one intact doorway and marched towards it with his small band of companions. Glitch leading, Six holding on to Mono's coattail. He knew the journey would be difficult and dangerous, but they had Glitch to lead them to the safe routes, and he could finally talk to Six to learn about her. Things were finally looking up, even just by a little. Holy shit, I'm tired. Woof. Yike. Let me just, relax for a second, 'cause damn, I'm tired. I didn't look at the chat like that entire time, so I'm so sorry if people were saying things. Oh, ow, everything hurts. I've been sitting in the exact same, position and everything. I haven't dared to move in case it distracted me or made an extra sound. Holy crap. Oh my gosh, I'm so tired. I'm so fucking tired. But hey, we did it. We read the entire thing. A whole 11,000 words. Can you believe it? This entire work is already 15,000 words, and it's only 2 chapters. Anyways, how was it? I know there was a lot that happened in that chapter, and by a lot, I mean not a lot at all. They met. That was it. That's the whole chapter. Oh my god. Oh, man. Everything hurts. Everything hurts. I'm really tired. Let's see. Some things I gotta fix that I noticed. I should just read stuff out loud. 'Cause that is a really good way of proofreading, I suppose. I'm really zoned out. A whole hour? Wait, hold on. No, that wasn't an hour. Hold the fuck up. No. It was not an hour. No way. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. It was not an hour. It was not. It was an hour. Oh my. Ah! I'm so tired. I'm literally going to die here. Oh, God. I'm sitting here like, wow, I really did that, huh? Holy crap. Wow. Anyway, so, a lot happened in that chapter. And also to recap, or say something that I meant to say at the beginning of the chapter, but I forgot to, and I should probably put that in the chapter notes. Keyboard ASMR. Okay, but to say what I meant to say at the beginning of the chapter, not every thought started with 2 mono because that would have been repetitive and sucky. So just assume that his thoughts are to himself unless Thin replies to them. Oh my gosh. Not the automatic emoji. I'm really happy that people showed up because I was really nervous for this. Man, that was exhausting. I should probably put a tag in there that says kinda beta read, but not really. There we go, yeah. Good. Alright. So I'm 13 minutes behind. Thin. Glitch, yeah. Yeah, wait, Cryptic, no, Cryptic. Cryptic, this was established in the first chapter. I'm not trying to keep that a secret, by the way. To, To review, basically, Glitch is the Thin Man. I'm not trying to hide that, to the reader, but it is going to be a surprise to Mono and Six, which, as you can imagine, that'll be fun. Can't wait for that. Holy crap, I'm tired. Oh, thank you, Jada. I didn't read the fic, admittedly. Oh, well, don't worry. That's really all that you had missed. That Glitch is thin. That's it. That's the whole tweet. God, I'm tired. I'm hungry. I'm tired. A lot of stuff happened. I need to take a shower. I thought Glitch was one of those glitchy kids. Okay, let me explain that. Yes and no. Okay, so the Thin Man talking through Glitch and everything is just him possessing glitched remains. Because it would have been really, really tough to tell the story in an interesting way if Thin Man was not ever there physically, except for in the Pale City chapter. That's no spoiler because I'm still sticking to the basic plot of Little Nightmares 2, except for the obvious ending. So the Thin Man is just possessing glitched remains, and he is transferred to them via Mono, and yeah, that's how that works. Yes, but actually no. And he is, like I said, he's still the size of a regular glitched remain. He isn't like taller or thin or anything. He just looks like a glitched remain. And he can just possess it, and he talks funny because Six can't understand him and everything. So yeah, I'm I'm probably gonna go lay down, cause damn, tired as hell. But thank you to everyone who joined the stream, and I'm really excited to get to writing the school chapter, cause holy shit, do I have plans for that. Let's go. I apologize for how terrible my reading was. I am not an audiobook person, and I am not a voice actor, so yeah, it's not very good. But oh, thank you everyone for joining. It was super fun. I can't wait to do this again with the school chapter. And I hope you enjoy reading Where the Signal on AO3.